The story opens with the low hum of wind through hollow reeds. Ethan Cole stands at the edge of what used to be a lake, now just a muddy basin, dotted with old boat posts sticking out like bones. He's a man trying to outwalk his own silence. Once a respected architect, he left the city after losing his wife and burning out from endless deadlines. The lake, with all its decay, mirrors the ruin inside him, quiet, abandoned, waiting for someone to care again. The real estate agent calls it a fixer-upper with potential. Ethan doesn't hear the pitch. He only hears the faint lap of wind against empty shore. He buys it that same afternoon. That night, he sits on the cracked dock as the sun sets in burnt orange tones. For the first time in years, he feels something close to peace. Wide aerial shot, the lakebed like a scar healing beneath fading light. Days turn into weeks. Ethan's hands, soft from years at a drafting desk, learn to work again. He cuts rotted boards, replaces beams, and digs trenches to redirect rainwater. Every hammer strike feels like a heartbeat returning. Local farmers stop by, curious. An old man warns him, "That lake's been dry 20 years, son." Nature forgot it. Ethan smiles faintly. "Then I'll remind her." He installs pumps, clears the silt, and plants willows at the shore to anchor the soil. Bit by bit, the water begins to rise. At dusk, dragonflies skim the surface again, and Ethan, knee-deep in mud, laughs softly to himself. Hopeful, tactile, cinematic montage of restoration, hands, tools, rippling water, sweat, sunlight. Just as the lake begins to look alive, peace ends abruptly. 3 black SUVs roll up one Saturday morning, polished, identical, and out of place in the rustic setting. Ethan wipes his hands on his jeans as a trio of well-dressed strangers step out. At the front, Claire Bennett, the president of the Willow Point HOA. She looks around with the air of someone inspecting property she already owns. "Mr. Cole, we've been meaning to discuss this lake," she says smoothly. "It falls under our jurisdiction. You'll need approval for any modifications." Ethan blinks, confused. "This lake was abandoned before your subdivision was even built. I bought it directly from the county." Claire smiles, the kind of smile that hides knives. "Oh, I'm sure that's what they told you. But our community map includes this body of water. It's technically shared access. I'll have my legal team send over the paperwork." Tight close-up on Ethan's uncertain face as the HOA cars drive away, leaving dust and unease behind. Over the next few days, Ethan receives the HOA's formal correspondence. It's a cease and desist order accusing him of unauthorized ecological modifications, endangering shared resources, and failing to adhere to community environmental standards. The tone is sterile but suffocating. He drives to the county land office with a folder of his deed papers, where the clerk confirms it. The lake is not under the HOA boundary. Still, the HOA's lawyer emails him again that night, short, cold, and smug. Ownership is being reviewed. Refrain from further interference until the matter is clarified. Ethan closes the email, staring out the window at the moonlight rippling over the lake. He whispers, "They're not taking this from me." Dim room, blue-gray tones. His reflection overlays the glowing email screen, man versus system. The next morning, he finds strangers at the lake. 2 HOA volunteers, wearing neon safety vests and holding clipboards, are hammering in a new sign. "Private use, residents only, HOA property." Ethan approaches carefully, voice steady. "This isn't your land." They ignore him. One films with her phone, saying loudly, "Sir, please calm down." Neighbors begin to gather, whispering. Someone laughs. The humiliation stings more than the injustice. He walks back to his cabin silently as the camera lingers on the sign swaying in the wind, a symbol of power disguised as order. That night, he pulls the sign out and burns it in the fire pit. The flames reflect in his eyes. Quiet anger hardening into resolve. The next week, a local paper publishes an article. Man refuses HOA authority over restored lake. Photos show Ethan beside the half-full water line, labeled private developer. The HOA releases a statement claiming he's endangering protected wildlife. Soon the town splits. Old residents visit him secretly, offering quiet support. New homeowners whisper that he's the troublemaker who doesn't follow rules. Ethan starts receiving anonymous notes, some supportive, others cruel. The emotional toll grows heavier than the work ever was. That night, rain falls hard. Ethan sits under his porch roof, staring at the lake. The ripples distort his reflection, fractured, uncertain, melancholy, raindrops, reflection, distant thunder, symbolizing inner conflict and growing isolation. Restless, Ethan visits the county archives. In a back room filled with dust and forgotten ledgers, he finds an old folder marked Willow Point Reservoir Project, 1979. Inside, blueprints, correspondence, and, crucially, the original survey map. The HOA's boundary line ends before the lake begins. It was never part of their jurisdiction. He also discovers an old newspaper clipping, Local Family Battles HOA Over Water Rights. A black and white photo shows a man standing on the same shore Ethan now calls home. The caption reads, "Harold Cole refuses to yield. Ethan freezes. It's his grandfather." The realization hits like thunder. This conflict isn't new. It's inherited. He runs his fingers along the faded edge of the map, whispering, "They took it from him once. They won't take it again." Close-up of Ethan's hand gripping the old survey map, his reflection mirrored in the lakewater overlay, past and present merging. Ethan arrives at the HOA's monthly meeting, unannounced, calm, but carrying something heavy in his hands. The original survey map and copies of the 1979 documents. The boardroom is brightly lit, sterile, decorated with framed community values posters. Claire Bennett sits at the center, polished and confident, her pearl necklace glinting under the fluorescence. "Mr. Cole," she says, feigning politeness, "you're not on the agenda." He sets the old papers down gently. "Then I'll be quick," he replies. "This," he unfolds the creased map, "is the original record of Willow Point's boundary. The lake was never part of it." The room falls silent. One board member clears his throat nervously. Claire's smile tightens like glass cracking under pressure. "Well," she says softly, "maps can be outdated." Ethan's eyes don't waver. "Truth isn't." Close-up of the map spreading across the polished table. Camera tilts up to Claire's fake composure fracturing. Cliffhanger. Claire whispers to her assistant, "Handle him." A few nights later, Ethan wakes to the sound of splintering wood. He rushes outside with a flashlight. The lake pump has been smashed, the dock ropes cut loose. Empty oil cans float in the shallows. The water glistens under moonlight, darkened by spilled fuel. He drops to his knees, the reflection of firelight from his cabin windows dancing across the lake. His chest tightens, not just at the loss, but at the familiarity of it. It feels personal. He doesn't call the sheriff. Instead, he quietly begins taking photos, documenting every inch. He knows the HOA will twist it otherwise. He's learned their language, paperwork, silence, control. He decides to fight them in their own dialect, tense and haunting. Long shadows, dripping water, muffled breath, camera focused on his shaking hands holding the phone camera steady. By morning, whispers spread through the small town like smoke. "Did you hear? Someone vandalized the lake." Bet it was Ethan trying to play victim. HOA said he's unstable. The manipulation works, for now. But Ethan starts hearing fragments from unexpected places. A clerk at the feed store, a contractor, a teenager delivering mail. Each whispers a piece of something bigger, the HOA's marina project. They plan to transform his lake into a private boat dock for luxury homes. The motive behind their aggression finally reveals itself. In that moment, Ethan's anger turns cold, not explosive, controlled, precise. He begins quietly collecting proof, muted daylight, steady camera, tone of slow revelation, the calm before strategy. One evening, as dusk settles, there's a soft knock on Ethan's door. It's Mrs. Harper, a widow in her 70s who lives near the subdivision. She brings old photos and a tin box that smells faintly of cedar. Inside, Faded letters, stamped documents, and a hand-sketched boundary of the lake. My husband helped build the original dam back in '78, she says. Claire's group's been lying for years. I've kept these just in case someone ever fought. Back. Ethan listens silently as she explains how the HOA's founders redrew maps decades ago to make the lake appear within their jurisdiction, an illusion of ownership no one ever challenged. He looks up at her with quiet gratitude. You just gave me what I needed. Warm interior lamplight, old paper textures, dust motes in air, emotional undercurrent of hope returning through memory. The following week, Ethan's attorney files a lawsuit against the Willow Point HOA for property fraud, defamation, and unlawful interference. The town buzzes, half the community shocked, the other half vindicated. Claire responds with venom. Press releases flood social media claiming Ethan's alterations to public land caused irreparable damage. They use aerial photos, half-truths, emotional appeals. But Ethan stays silent, letting his documentation build its own gravity. He walks the lake every evening, reviewing notes, his reflection fractured by small waves. He's no longer fixing a lake. He's restoring truth. Sharp contrast, the serenity of the lake versus the chaos of bureaucracy. Subtle soundtrack of determination. Claire doubles down. She calls an emergency HOA meeting, broadcasting it live to defend the community's reputation. She paints Ethan as a squatter with a vendetta. But halfway through, someone leaks one of Ethan's documents, a scanned HOA email chain discussing the marina project. Public opinion shifts overnight. The same neighbors who once whispered now avoid Claire in grocery aisles. Ethan doesn't gloat. He just keeps building, quietly fixing the dock again under a silver dawn. For the first time, peace feels possible, but fragile. Early morning light breaking through fog as Ethan hammers wood in silence. Symbolic tide turning, both literally and metaphorically. The courtroom is small but packed. Locals line the benches. The air hums with anticipation. Claire sits stiff-backed beside her lawyer, still confident, until the evidence begins to roll in. Ethan's attorney lays out everything. The original survey map. The old construction records Mrs. Harper's sworn statement. The leaked marina proposal with Claire's signature. Each exhibit hits like a slow drumbeat. Claire's facade cracks. First her smile, then her stillness. The judge's gaze sharpens. It appears, Ms. Bennett, that the HOA has been operating under false pretenses. The camera cuts to Ethan, calm, centered, silent. After months of gaslighting and chaos, truth finally speaks. Handheld close-ups, courtroom light streaking across Ethan's face. Rising orchestral tone of restrained justice. Cliffhanger. The judge says, "We'll reconvene for final judgment next week." The next week, the courtroom feels colder. Tension heavy enough to touch. Claire walks in with forced confidence, her pearl necklace now trembling slightly against her collarbone. Ethan sits silently beside his lawyer, hands folded, eyes steady. As the hearing begins, Ethan's attorney plays a video on the projector, security footage from the night of the sabotage. The room falls silent as headlights illuminate two HOA members cutting the pump lines. Behind them, a voice, clear, unmistakable, gives the order. "It's Claire," she freezes. Gasps ripple through the audience. Her lawyer reaches for her arm, whispering something frantic. Ethan doesn't smile. He doesn't need to. The truth lands heavier than revenge ever could. Close-up of Claire's reflection flickering on the projector screen. Her own face watching her downfall. The judge's voice breaks the silence like a hammer on glass. The evidence is clear. The lake is the private property of Mr. Ethan Cole. The HOA's claim is invalid, and its actions, coercive, defamatory, and unlawful. A stunned hush fills the courtroom. Claire sits frozen, jaw tight, hands trembling slightly. Her entire facade, years of control, influence, power, collapses in one breath. The judge continues. The HOA is hereby ordered to pay damages, legal fees, and restoration costs for the vandalism committed under Ms. Bennett's direction. Ethan exhales slowly, his shoulders loosening for the first time in months. No applause. No cheering. Just silence. Heavy, sacred, real, emotional realism, soft piano undertone, focus on Ethan's quiet eyes as he looks toward the window light, not the verdict. The HOA unravels. Claire resigns in disgrace, her leadership position revoked. Some members apologize publicly. Others retreat into silence, pretending they never supported her. Ethan receives a formal letter of apology, signed by the remaining board, but he doesn't frame it. He tucks it away in a drawer. Forgiveness isn't about words. It's about peace. That evening, he walks the lake's edge in solitude. The water is full again, calm, deep, whole. The same lake that once mirrored his pain now reflects his healing. Twilight hues, ripples shimmering with gold. Ethan's silhouette walking the dock as dusk fades into quiet blue. Weeks pass. Ethan rebuilds the dock stronger, installs solar lights, replants reeds along the shore. Neighbors begin to return, kids fishing, couples picnicking, laughter replacing argument. A small plaque appears near the dock, gifted by Mrs. Harper. For those who remember what's worth fighting for. He touches the metal with a faint smile. For the first time, the lake feels alive not because of ownership, but because it's finally free. Warm golden hour montage, hammering wood, sunlight through willow leaves, water sparkling, wordless redemption. One quiet morning, Ethan finds a plain envelope on his porch. No return address. Inside, a handwritten note in careful cursive. You were right about the lake, but I was right about the people. Some things never change. Claire, he reads it twice, emotion unreadable. Then he folds it neatly, sets it in the fire pit, and watches it burn. The ash floats upward, carried by the same wind that ripples across the water. Slow-motion ash drifting over the lake. Transition from flame to reflection. Symbolism, letting go of conflict, resentment, and the need to win. Dawn. Ethan rows a small wooden boat across the lake, mist rising from the surface like memory itself. The water is mirror smooth, the world perfectly still. He pauses in the center, dipping his fingers into the water. The ripples spread out slowly like time healing itself. In the distance, a heron takes flight. Silent grace in motion. A soft voiceover. His thoughts. I thought I was fighting for land, but it was never about the lake. It was about remembering who I was and letting go of what I wasn't. The camera pulls up, wide aerial shot. Ethan's small boat drifting in a vast restored lake. The sunlight pierces the fog. Fade to title. Peace isn't won, it's rebuilt.